Oversight Research Committee, and just do a quick attendance roll call. Melinda Cassieri.
Here.
Bruce Flax.
Here.
Susan Dean Shinbrot.
Here.
Kate Richards.
Here.
And Lauren Gauthier.
Here.
Autumn Hanscom. Nope. Okay. All right, so since this is just kind of the opening meeting of this group, I'm thinking, we should aim to keep it about an hour or less as far as the meeting goes, depending on how the conversation unfolds. But I don't believe any communication or reports on anyone's end as far as like concerning this committee. When it was announced that you'd be on it, did anyone reach out to you to, make any feelings known? No?
Representative Gauthier?
Yes.
So I did speak to the students that were part of the Groton Youth Collective. They said that they were, very interested in what we were doing, and that they'll be, staying along with us and just watching. So that was the one thing. It's just they were interested in what we would be doing.
Great. Good to hear. Anyone else?
To make sure everyone saw the students have chatted that they're on, in case people weren't sure or didn't know. So welcome aboard to the students and the Groton Collective.
I see them in the collective,
Yep.
in the attendees list. Yes. Okay, so first order of business, just an open discussion as far as like the current parameters and possibilities for the oversight body as it exists with current town charter and current state law, because as it stands right now, the bill did go through the Senate, but the governor has yet to sign it. And if I understand correctly, all the parts of that bill don't take effect. There's different parts of the bill that take effect at different points during the next coming year, but the whole thing will not be in effect until July of 2021. So if we're going to be doing anything in the immediate coming year, it has to operate underneath the current charter and the current state law. Does that sound logical to everyone? Any objections? So I would just like to kind of maybe we could just do like a little bit around, for the Groton Collective that and the other attendees that are watching. Maybe we could just kind of introduce ourselves and what drew us into this committee and what we're looking to get out of it. Any volunteers to start, or should I just start going clockwise? I see Lauren, you raised your hand.
Yeah, so it was for something else, but I'll stick with the introductions for now.
Okay.
Representative Lauren Gauthier, District 4 of the RTM. I was drawn here just by kind of curiosity of current events, interest in how our town could respond. I do have retired law enforcement in my family, so just interested in it all, and that's what drew me here.
All right.
I'll go next.
Susan? Yep.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'm Sudine Shinbrot, District 5 RTM rep. For those young people who don't know me, I worked at Cutler Middle School for about 25 years. Hopefully I'll still continue to work there. I've lived in Groton most of my life, and I was drawn for a little bit of a different reason. I had a serious problem 40 years ago in the Groton Town Police. If I wasn't living here, probably I would not be here. So they were instrumental in helping me. I always felt as though they're on my side, and I've had a soft spot, which is why I've lived in Groton my entire life and won't move.
Thank you. Melinda, how about you go?
My name is Melinda Kasiri. I'm a representative from District 5. I am actually a former police officer. I left law enforcement to raise my children because my husband is also in law enforcement. I was a police officer for 5 years, and my husband has been working in the same department for 12 years now.
Thank you. Bruce?
Bruce Flax, I'm in District 6, RTM. I was on the council for quite a while. I think it's interesting to get people together to discuss the law enforcement and what citizens can do. So I thought it would be interesting. I have an interest in it, and I was thankful for being accepted onto the committee. So.
Kate?
Kate, you're muted.
Okay, no, I'm not. I hope. Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Kate Richards. I'm on the RTM District 6. This is my second term. And I am interested in being a part of this particular committee for a lot of reasons. I have young children, and you know, a lot of the issues that are going on today, I'm thinking about them and their future and things and their friends and our friends. I also have a connection with it regarding my job. I'm a professor of anthropology and law at UConn, and I teach on the topic of human rights. And particularly in anthropology, I specialize in politics and law. And at the law school, I teach a class on democratizing and transitional justice in places around the world where there have been mass violations of human rights. So we look at a lot of examples from around the world: South Africa, Argentina, Chile, Peru, Guatemala, the former Yugoslavia, which is where I did my research for my dissertation. And you know, many examples at looking at what happens when there are mass violations of human rights, why, what goes along with that. And the police force are often a major component of that. And so there are a lot of concerns because of my research and what I do with looking at the police and the role as a form of state-sanctioned violence. And you know, when is that okay and when is it not okay? So that's kind of my background and why I'm drawn to be a part of this particular committee.
Thank you. And Jill, I believe you're up next.
Sure, my apologies. I just got home, so I'm not going to. So I'm Jill Rusk. I am a representative from District 3, and I am interested in being involved in this because, first of all, I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee, but also I'm involved with the City PACT Committee. Love to see something like come over on town side also. I think it's so important that we learn what we don't know, and I think things that some of us haven't experienced that others may have experienced that shape our perspective on things. So my focus is really to hear what other people have to say and to learn from others and help our community that process.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'd like to just kind of open up a wide discussion as far as what people would like to see come out of this committee as far as you know. Well, actually, no. Let's try it like this. I sent out some material, one of which was the opinion, as far as like the town attorney's opinion on what was possible under the current town charter and current state law, and I'd like to just kind of hear some thoughts about what people would like to see as far as civilian oversight goes, or where you see the needs, what might need to be in place. Let's see, I suppose I should come up with a calling order. So let's start. I'm gonna go kind of like.
Sorry, excuse me,
Oh wait, yeah.
Representative Thomas. Yeah, I had my hand raised.
I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. Go ahead.
So I just was going to ask kind of along the same lines as I think what you're getting at. What is the charge of the committee? What are our objectives? I think that's a good place to start so that we can begin to focus and direct our research to kind of know what we're looking towards. So if we could kind of just figure out what areas that we'd like to focus on, because I think just doing some preliminary reading around, there's a lot of different topics that we could try to dig in and focus, but I don't know if, we have a specific timeline that we're trying to create a report for, or if this is just going to be a repository for people to bring their stories or their information. So could we get a clear idea of what the charge and what the objectives of this committee are?
Sure. In talking with syma and about this, the idea was that we could all work together to kind of look at, I see what our charge is to come up with a report in a certain amount of time, as soon as possible. Like ideally, like, maybe 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, just to kind of come up with a report looking at those 4 agenda items that I put on the agenda are basically like the 4 sections of the report that I would like to produce. Whereas like, what can we do right now in the immediate, coming year or so, if we felt there was that much of an impetus, or just to establish something that we can then build on. And then the second section would be the optimal parameters, as far as like, what do we think the community needs? And actually, I think coupled with that could be looking at how, we're in a unique situation here. We're not just a single municipality. We are just Groton town, but we coexist very closely and intermingled with Groton City and Groton Long Point. So, that may be something we have to kind of look at in the broad spectrum of things. How can we work as a function to help there be some kind of consistency in how the police operate between the city, the town, and Groton Long Point. If there isn't consistency now, just kind of like look at what we have and if there's a need to make an effort somewhere. And then the third part would be identifying, where's the gap? What are the gaps between what we can do and what we want to do, or what we feel we need to do. And then the fourth part would be, what would it take to get there? If there's a number of differences and deficiencies that we identify between what we want and what we can do and what we need to do, then how do we bridge the gap? What do we have to do? Are we talking charter revision? Are we talking, petitioning the state to do something, or what have you? That's the basic overview. So, like, the idea is to come up with a cohesive report that we can present back to the RTM as far as what we feel a civilian oversight body would look like, what options we have, and what we would need to achieve those options. So that being said,
Kate has her hand up.
Spark any thought? Oh wait, I see syma there. Yep. All right, go ahead, syma. And then Kate.
Thanks. Actually, I think Kate had her hand up, but let me just say thank you. I'm here. Unfortunately, I didn't get the link. I wasn't on your distribution. So I just wanted to let you know I'm here. But I also just wanted to say that, the town council is the legislative body. So this is really a report about looking at what other places have done. At least this is how I envisioned it. You know, what we can do in Groton. And I would also encourage you to look at the recent state law that, or the law that just passed the legislature, which I don't think has passed the Senate yet, but however that ends up, I would encourage you guys to take that into account. But, you know, I think it's just good to be clear that we're not a legislative body. We are the body that looks at the budgets, and we do have the power of initiative, but that's not what this is about. This is really about trying to, provide insight, perspective from which I think that the RTM is really good at. We have two parties. We have, people from every district. These are things the town council does not have. So I think providing, the rich perspectives that all of you guys bring, plus other members of the RTM to that report would be great. And I'm going to let Kate speak. I just want to let you know I'm here, and thank you for Lauren for sending me the link.
Thank you, Sim. All right, Kate.
Okay. I actually had raised my hand initially to ask you to promote SYMA to panelists, but that was taken care of. So I'll move on beyond that. I guess, I just think we should start a committee like this by acknowledging, what has been going on in our country and why people are protesting, and why we've created this committee, right? We've been seeing a lot of protests because of situations where there has been police brutality, right? There are some police officers who are doing some things that are against what they should be doing, and they have not had, in many circumstances, have not been accountable to that for various reasons, because of laws and other reasons as well. And we need to explain that that is a situation that is going on, and that's why we're here, to try to figure out the best way to address that, and understand that some people are very afraid of a badge, a police officer, because of their own experiences of that. There are plenty of wonderful police officers out there who are doing great things, but we do have a lot of cases recently, and certainly in the past, where that position has been abused. And for me, I think one of the big goals of the committee would be to think about what we can do to help decrease that particular problem. And the police accountability bill that has now passed the Senate as well does do some of those things. And we have a lot to look through. And I think, we aren't the only ones. There's a lot of groups who are looking at this bill that has just passed and what are the ramifications. We're not going to understand all of that right away. One thing that it does is it has more checks and looks at mental health issues, which I think is really important. It also prohibits certain actions by police officers. And what I'm not sure about is how much it helps to kind of keep in place a situation or a culture within police forces where if somebody is doing something that they're not supposed to be doing, that other police officers would feel comfortable intervening, saying something, and trying to stop that. I think that's a big part of a lot of the problems that we've been having, is that the culture within a lot of the departments does not really, it's not one that condones people to step in and say no. And if they do, they may get some retaliation for it. So for me, that's a big concern. I'd like to see that that is changed, and that we do have some more repercussions for when people are acting outside of what their duties should be. And also, wanted to recognize that police officers are doing a lot more than they, really should be. Their job description has grown. They're doing all kinds of different things that aren't necessarily policing, and that perhaps could be better functions for other professionals. So that's my opening statement, I guess.
Thank you, Kate. Bruce?
Yes, so a couple of things. I think that it would help if we kind of spent a meeting just reviewing the police situation in Groton, and how the reporting structure goes between the 3 police departments, and how it's all organized, because I think a lot of people don't understand that, and so that would help, I think, in starting our discussion. And then as far as the what the state just passed, I agree. There's a lot of great things in there. I think that we shouldn't just be looking at it from one side. That we have the responsibility to look at it from all sides. And so I just think that we have to be, we just have to see it from every angle. Not only the constituents angle, but the police department's angle, and also from a like the council angle, and what some of the things will mean in terms of budget and how it affects the taxpayers, just as part of the part of what we review. When I would be interested to know also, and Melinda may know some of this, but how much can be made public and how much cannot. There's a lot of issues that go on, and maybe that's part of our purview, is to try to get these things to be more public when something happens within the ranks of the police department. But there were a couple of situations when I was on council with people in the police department that stayed behind in the executive session, that we weren't really able to discuss it publicly. So I'd like to understand when we're developing what our recommendations are, what we would have the ability to know and comment on from a legal standpoint. So and the only other thing was with regards to the opinion from Sussman Shapiro. I think it would be helpful. I mean, I did read through it, and it sounds like we can't do a lot. So I want to make sure that when we're recommending something, that it's something that can be recommended without legal intervention. And if it can't, but we want to recommend it, that we identify that and say, like, this we can't. This right now is something that we're recommending but can't be done. But we strongly suggest that we want to look at every way to make it happen, so that we're not recommending something that, and not educating that it's something that can happen because of the judgment. If that makes any sense at all. That's all.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, that made sense to me. And I understand, like, yeah, it's a counterbalanced approach. Melinda, you're up next.
For the most part, Bruce, things cannot be revealed until they're investigated by the administration of the police department, which is why I was going to propose tonight that we start looking into a model that is similar to New London's PCRC. They are federally mandated to have their PCRC, which is why it exists. And I don't think that we're going to be able to do anything like the PCRC based on the attorney's language that we received until the bill is in place for July 2021. And I have a couple other suggestions for maybe sitting down with the police chief and suggesting something to go along with the PCRC type structure, where residents of Groton can actually sit down and ask questions about why things are done. Because I think that's one of the biggest issues that I see, just from social media, about people don't understand the legality of how cops are acting and why they're doing certain things. So that's basically just some ideas that I was going to throw out tonight.
I agree. I think that's a great point. You know, as far as this body could also have the opportunity to become a communication device between police departments and the community, as far as like helping explain and break down any sort of miscommunication that's happening. Now, anyone else interested in speaking right now? Lauren?
Yes, to just go along with what Representative Kassiri was saying, could we invite all of the chiefs? Actually, I think, you know, since we have three chiefs here in town, we should listen to all of them, along with, as Representative Flax suggested, just the first meeting after this establishment meeting, we kind of lay the groundwork for what we're looking at. I mean, because of the dynamic situation we have here, I think it's important for us to kind of figure out, we're going to make this recommendation. Are we making it to the council, and are we only making it for the town of Groton Police, which I don't think would serve citizens best, considering we do have a police force in the city and technically one in Groton Long Point as well. So just pretty much an informational meeting from a couple different people. I don't know who we would ask to speak on behalf of the organizational structures of the town. Perhaps Town Manager John Burt would be able to kind of explain a lot of that to us. But that would just be my suggestion for next meeting, at least.
All right. Yeah, we'll take that into consideration. I'm not sure if like right now is a good time to bring in all that influx just yet, but I do understand what you're saying, and that has to be considered. I think like a multi-level type approach would be good there, as far as like, you know, what can we do is what, you know, only the town, we can only recommend stuff to the town council, and that's pretty much it. But we could also suggest and create like a possibility, and that's where we could talk to all the chiefs and John Burt to see what is possible as far as creating an accord of some kind that would create some consistency between all the departments, if I'm understanding correctly. Is that about what you're getting at?
Yes.
Right.
Excuse me, Chairman, you've got Jill Rusk, Representative Rusk has her hand up.
I see that. Jill, do you want to go?
Well, I understand what Representative Gauthier is saying. I want to say that the city has already started a group. So I think it's really important to establish what this group is looking to do and what the town is looking to do before I think we should pull in the city or Groton Long Point. It's just my opinion.
All right, so a couple things. One, there is a comment in the chat, a question from Nanaya Ali, and she's asking if any of the committee members attended any of the protests, rallies, or forums. And I think that's a valid question. And I can say I have as well. So
yes, so my camera's not on. Yes, I attended the rallies and forums. I think so. I tried to ask a clarifying question in the chat, and it looks like they're asking if any members of this committee, not necessarily, I don't think, have attended the rallies, but have been part of the organizing of them or part of the Groton Youth Collective, which I mean, Chairman Thomas, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is only for members of the RTM because it's an RTM special committee, right? Like members of the public can't join our committee?
I would have to defer to the moderator on that, and I have to do some research. I wouldn't want to violate any protocols.
Yeah, the public isn't a member of this committee. I mean, certainly, you know, our committees are usually more flexible, so you could recognize someone in the public, but, you know, I would probably focus on your business, and, you know, you might set aside a time at the beginning if you want to hear from the public, but I think it you know, depending on the nature of the communication, it could detract from your agenda. So, they are definitely not members, and it would be, you could recognize them in your purview as chair, and actually a member could also rise and recognize them as well, and yield their time for speaking to a member of the public if they desire that.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Representative Cassieri, you have your hand up.
Just wanted to throw it out there that members can, residents can email us and let us know their opinions and suggestions if they want us to talk about anything.
Great point. Yes, definitely. All our information is up on the town website. It can be found underneath the RTM information. One other point also, as far as the town attorney's opinion was, we should remind ourselves that was written before the Senate bill was passed. So there are changes in the parameters coming, like I said. So and that bill doesn't take full effect completely until about July of 2021. So we have a year or so between now and then. So whatever we do as we construct this report, we have to keep that in mind, and that definitely kind of changes the context. I saw a hand pop up and then go down. Oh, Representative Richards.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to answer the question earlier that, yes, I have been at protests in Groton and in New London as well. And I did put some feelers out to see if somebody who is on the New London Civilian Review Board might be interested in speaking with us as a committee for, to get their take and information. I don't know what you would think about that, but if I am able to connect with somebody, I would share that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Representative Richards, I had a little bit of a connection issue there. Could you repeat your comment?
Sure. Well, my question part was that I put out some feelers to connect with people on the New London Review Board.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm able to find somebody who'd be interested in talking with us and be available for questions for us on a meeting like this, I'd relay that information. I'm not sure if you're interested, if we should stay totally focused on Groton, but I think that is certainly a good model to learn about, and I'll pass on any information as I get it.
Yeah, I definitely would be open to that. I think that would be well within the purview of this committee, and I think also I'd like to thank the Groton Youth Collective for attending here, and thank Representative Gauthier for liaising with them to help encourage their attendance. I think for the next meeting, I will build in a little section for some comment and to take some thoughts and commentary from the Groton Youth Collective, if there are members of that group that want to speak and have their voices heard on this. And that would also include, I'd build in some space for anyone from the New London body that wants to show up and discuss what their experiences have been and what their interests are, like as far as now that they're looking at their body and how what changes they might want to make too. Representative Rusk.
Actually, Representative Kassiri had her hand up first if she wants to go first.
My apologies. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. If anyone had any questions, specific questions tonight about New London's model, I have a general understanding of how it works. So if you had any questions, I could attempt to answer them tonight.
I'm going to jump in on that and ask you to give a general overview of it if you can, because I feel like we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If something is out there that is working, hopefully that could help us at least hone in on what we might be able to do.
Sure.
I'm good with that if you want to carry on.
Great, thank you. So New London's, hold on one second, let me just pull it up. New London's Police Community Relations Committee. So they have a certain amount of seats. And I believe they're 2-year positions. They have they have 13 members. They have the chair of the Public Safety Committee, a representative from the NAACP, a member of the gay and lesbian community, a member of the education community, a member of the Hispanic community, a representative from the police union, a designee of the police chief, so that would be a captain or a deputy, anyone that basically does the investigation, generally goes for the actual meeting, and then 6 citizens. Basically, they meet whenever there is a civilian complaint, and once it is investigated, it would go to the PCRC for review. They are allowed to hear the complaint, and obviously the representative from the administration would go over their findings of the complaint, and their vote basically is whether or not they find that the investigation was adequate.
Great, thank you. Representative Richards, is that a hand raise?
Yeah, my understanding, and I went to a presentation by someone on the New London Review Board, maybe 4 years ago, was that it really is just an opinion and advisory. There aren't any repercussions attached to the vote that they have. Is that correct?
Correct. They also, because they already have a committee in place, I don't believe they're going to be able to get the subpoena powers either, because they already have something established. Basically, the reasoning behind is them not having any say in what the discipline is because it's hard for people that are not in law enforcement to make disciplinary actions against the officers, which is basically why they can say whether or not they feel it was adequate or not, the investigation.
Moderator Ebbin?
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to see, I know that Representative Rusk just said the city has instated a community policing board. I'm not sure of the exact name. I read about it in the newspaper. I would be interested in knowing how the process of that board is going to work, what their scope is. I have to say I was a little, maybe I'm out of the loop, but as moderator and in District 2 in the city, I would have liked to have known about it before I read about it in the paper and it was fully formed, but I would really like to know more about that board as well. Thanks.
Representative Rusk, do you want to go over that?
Sure, I'd be happy to send you all information on it. It's not an oversight group. It is a group to come together and discuss concerns and develop strategies on how the community and the police can work better together. So it does not have any oversight to it, but I'm happy to send you all the information that I can. I can send that to Betsy, I guess, and have her disseminate it, if that's okay, Betsy?
Sure, I'll be glad to send that. I should send that to all members of the RTM because I don't want it to just to be one group, if that's okay with you, Chairman.
Yeah, definitely. Please do that. And actually, Representative Cassieri, would you be able to, do you have that document in digital form? Is that something that can be shared also?
Absolutely. It's actually on the City of New London website, but I'll forward it to you.
Great, thank you. All right, so Representative Flax, you mentioned you wanted to kind of just briefly overview of what the existing complaint structure is as far as it stands, and then maybe we can discuss like if we think that's sufficient, and look at how that might relate to a civilian oversight board.
Yeah, we definitely can put that together. And I think also with the committee, after we, as we become more educated, would want to recommend, how it is and how we'd like it to be, I guess. Like, I'm sure everybody has a thought on where they want to take it, from here. So I'm sure we can reach out. I can certainly reach out to the chief and find out, what the process is right now. And I'm sure Melinda, too. So, but, and report back to everybody.
Yeah, I think, the basic breakdown on some of the other meetings, I don't want to get caught in a redundancy loop. It has been discussed, I believe, if a complaint's filed, it goes to the deputy chief, and if it warrants further review, if there's a finding there, then they take it to the manager and the attorney, and to figure out like any sort of disciplinary action. In a nutshell, I think that's kind of like how it works. But yeah, some detail on that would be good to have to build off of. And Representative Rusk, your time with the city, are you familiar at all with the city's process as far as handling police complaints?
I wouldn't want to speak on that without reviewing it. I'm sorry.
All right, fair enough. Is that something you might feel comfortable with getting some information together for next meeting?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
You're muted.
As far as the moving on to number 2, item number 2, optimal parameters for how this could work. Maybe that's something that we could all take the week on and come back next week to discuss briefly, like sort of what do we think our ideal situation would be? If we could just kind of make it all happen, based on our knowledge of the community and reaching out to our constituents and talking to people we know and understand, figure out, like, just come up with a theoretical of what you would like to see or what you think might be a good fit for the community. Does that seem like a fair thing to put out there?
Yes, yes. Representative Gauthier, I agree.
All right.
We do, if I could, we do have a question in the chat. Could we have a written out explanation of how the police complete system works? Maybe that's something that we can inquire about with the chief of police and the town manager.
Yes, I could look into that, and maybe Representative Flax as well. Like, we could collaborate on getting that boiled down to like a nice bullet point type document as far as how it works. And we could have that ready probably by next week, I think.
Excuse me, it's Representative Richards. I just wanted to add that on the police website, there is a link online to file a complaint that includes a lot of the procedure right there. So if you want to look at those details, you can look on links from the town website to Town of Groton Police. I've looked through it. So there's an explanation and a place to lodge a complaint right there.
Ah, yes. Thank you. Yeah, well, there's that right there. Yep.
Trying to find the link.
But as far as like how that gets processed internally, though, I think maybe that might be part of the question too. Like once it gets submitted.
I believe that is also on the webpage, but I will check.
Representative Gauthier?
There was also just a pretty long article in the day if you're looking for content before we can get that information to you guys before next week about their recent civilian complaints. There's a lot of them named in there. There's also a lot of the procedure right in that day article. So if you're just to go into the day and search for Groton Police, there's a ton of information in that article.
Thank you. All right, so let's see here. As far as see, yeah, I don't know if there's much more to discuss for tonight as far as this goes. Because a lot of it, you know, depends on what happens. I mean, I'm assuming the governor is going to sign that bill into law. So then there's going to be the question of what that enables us to do and how that relates to, you know, the process of how complaints are handled. One thing I did want to kind of throw out there just for a point of conversation, getting beyond just complaints and the grim end of things, do we want to see an oversight body that maybe looks into elements of policy and how police are actually, how much they're asked to do versus like other social services that could be brought in to help support police and for situations that don't require, you know, people with arms showing up.
Could I jump in on that? Having worked in the school system for a number of years, sometimes the police are called because you don't know what else to do. And I think that's something you have to keep in mind as you go through this. You know, mental health services are at a minimum, and there aren't a lot of other agencies we can call on. I've called 211 for a student and been told it's a 3-day wait. So sometimes the police are used just because you have no one else left to go to.
Yeah, and that's been a common refrain with a lot of police officers and personnel that I've talked to on my own, as far as, you know, they do feel like overwhelmed in some capacity as far as like the number of things they're asked to do and how much they're pulled in different directions. And
I think it's a bigger problem than just, you know, oversight of police. I guess that's my point. We need a mental health system that works. We need more social services.
True. All right. So how would this body feel about, I understand having some chiefs here. I think having some other voices in would be good. I'm also interested in perhaps Representative Nolan might be a good voice to bring in too, to talk to about what good oversight might look like from a police perspective. Representative Richards?
Yes, I think those are great ideas. I also wanted to note that we actually have more police in Groton. We have Yukon Avery Point Police as well. And I teach there, and I've helped to plan and coordinate several events, including this past year, one on mental health. And we were very fortunate to have the police, I'm not sure if his title is chief or lieutenant, who's there, Justin. And he came in and was one of the panelists and talked to the role of police officers, particularly at Avery Point, for responding to all kinds of issues, but particularly mental health and how they're trained to do that. And he has a dog that he brings with him that's a part of trying to create a friendlier connection with the students that has been very successful. And I was really impressed with what he was doing there and how that was being carried out. I also, in conjunction with that, took a mental health kind of first aid certification and learned a lot about the police role as well as others in particularly a crisis, right? Like when there's a major situation and something needs to be happened, some sort of intervention needs to take place. So yeah, these issues are certainly interrelated, and you know, we need to think about, right, how much of this is at a scale that we can do locally, but I don't think we should get too constrained in that, because you know, we are a part of a local community, but we are interconnected with, you know, the state, the country, and the world in so many different ways, and we can you know, take action that will impact other areas as well.
Thank you for that. And I'll have a follow-up comment to that in a minute, but I want to get to Representative Cassieri.
Thank you. Just to go off what you're saying, Representative Richards, I think one thing that we can do locally, and that's important, is to make sure that the majority of the Groton Town, Groton City, Groton Long Point Police Departments are trained in crisis intervention. It's not, you get a little taste of it in the academy, but there is a longer class that after you become a certified officer, you can take. I didn't receive that training until I was 3 years into my career. It's an important class. It deals with everything from mental health to people on the autism spectrum. It's something that would be beneficial in the interim till we can do something with this committee, that we can urge the chiefs to make sure that the officers are trained in that.
Right, and that kind of ties into what I was going to say. I see you, Representative Dean Shinbrook.
Yeah, I actually, we took a training class this past winter from an officer in the city of Groton, Officer Harris, who specializes in the autism spectrum based on his own son, and he does a lot of training. We learned a lot. We did. He was excellent, and I think he does a lot of training within the city of Groton Police on that. So.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a number of people that we could bring in to have the conversation. To circle back to what I wanted to respond to Representative Richards, one of the exciting things, I think, because we're not a legislative body, and our charge is just to come up with a report, and there's a lot of fluidity in that charge. So if we identify needs and deficiencies, or perhaps like adaptations or adjustments that come up, we could also include those in a section where we could, you know, encourage, or even like identify like other cities and other municipalities and towns that maybe have broken up and unbundled. One of the phrases I've heard is unbundle the police, as opposed to defund or refund or whatever. But unbundling, like, you know, so there are some, you know, municipalities out there that have experimented with ways of taking some of that weight off the police shoulders and kind of breaking up a little bit, so they're not quite so taxed. Also, I wanted to put out there I think we might also want to reach out to the military police, the Navy, whoever they have running, whatever their law enforcement looks like on the base there, in regards to like how they relate to the community. Representative Gauthier?
Yes, stop me if I'm out of order, but I'd like to recognize any members of the Groton Youth Collective that'd like to speak. I know we're nearing our hour, which we kind of targeted to be the length of this meeting. So if they had wanted to say anything to this group before we take off on our research and putting together recommendations, I'd like to recognize that group.
I have no problem with that. Any objections from anyone else on the committee? All right, yeah, let's do it. How do I do that?
I think in your functions you might have some sort of way to, syma, I just saw you unmuted yourself. Go for it.
Go into a participant and you should be able to see that there's an attendee column.
Do that?
You see in participants that there's an attendee column? And there's two people, Aundré Bumgardner and Nana Ali. And
Yes.
so if you want them to, you can, I don't have the ability to do it, but you can unmute them, I believe.
All right. I just gave them both permission if they want to jump in. Miss Ali, are you here? Are you able to speak? You should be able to unmute yourself and speak your piece.
You unmuted me, so I'm good. Hi, my name is Nanaya Ali, and I'm also your Marin. If you could see her, she's also a GIC member, and we are here to represent UIC students and people. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Miss Ali, I'm having a very difficult time hearing you. I don't know if you want to refresh your connection or something. We're having a very difficult time with the audio.
Can you hear me now?
That is better.
Oh, I said my name is Nanaya Ali, and I'm here to represent UIC. So is Marin, if you guys can see her in the chat as well. We are one of the two leads of UIC, and we're just here to just observe and get some notes down. Did y'all hear me there?
Yes, thank you for your comments, and I'm glad that you're here. I want to thank you for coming, and I would encourage you, I'm going to put into the agenda for the next meeting public, for lack of a better term, public comment section. So we can open the meeting and take some commentary from you or anyone else from your group or anyone else you might know that want to come in and talk to the issue of what they would like to see a civilian oversight body look like in the town of Groton.
Definitely. I would definitely get more people to come from USC. And thank you for inviting us. We were very excited to be here today and listen to what you guys have to say.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Oh, no, there we go. Okay, so I think we've kind of covered all the agenda items for the most part, except, well, we can get into number 4 next week, like once the governor signs the bill, and that's a reality that we have to deal with as far as like the possible changes that are available based on the new legislation. Does anyone have any other business or comments they want to share? Oh, Representative Gauthier, is that a new hand up?
Nope, I will remove it.
All right, very well then.
Did Councilor Bumgardner want to speak? Because he just got elevated to this too.
I just saw him in the attendees section and I bumped him up because I clicked on him by accident. But if there's a comment, I'm open to it.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, thank you to our esteemed committee members for committing to discuss this very important issue in our town involving police brutality. As you may have discussed, the legislature just voted out a very comprehensive a police accountability bill that will very much impact the future of policing in every community, including Groton, here in Groton. And the council in the last few weeks have discussed ways we could work together to, again, not just deliberate and discuss issues around police brutality, but look to have a committee structure that would be solely focused on this one issue, where we could, give attention to this issue, the attention that it deserves. And so our mayor appointed an amazing team of counselors to serve on a public safety committee, which will receive a referral to discuss and ultimately, hopefully vote on a civilian police review board here in town. And I know those are going to be discussions we will be holding in the Public Safety Committee. As you know, and may have known, the council heard from our town attorney who opined on the pending legislation. Since then, it had changed immensely since its initial working draft. Ultimately, the language that was adopted by the Senate last night is very much different from the language that Eileen Duggan opined on. And so we will be receiving her opinion on the new legislation shortly. And then that will largely determine, again, the future of a civilian review board, which in my eye, I think is very important to, being a check against any form of police brutality or poor police misconduct. Or police misconduct in our community. We've been very fortunate to have very good officers in town, who are trained as Representative Dean Shinbrot shared, a program in the city of Groton where officers are trained to work with children with autism in particular, and it's been a very successful program. I've seen it firsthand with my family. Officers de-escalating situations with my brother. And so in no way would I support any sort of reform that would hinder police officers from doing good work in our community. But what I do not condone, and what I don't think any community member or committee member on this, as part of this body, certainly does not condone police brutality. And that is what we're discussing. That is, police brutality is the very reason why, as we've seen with the murder of George Floyd, so many people, including right here in Groton, pouring out into our streets by the hundreds, demanding justice. And so this is our opportunity to do so. I've had a discussion with Chairman already about ways our committee can collaborate with yours. There was a lot of discussion in our town council meeting about whether or not our own committee or a new committee could be a committee that consisted of both RTM members and council members. And just looking at this group right here alone, who wouldn't want the input of each and every one of you in terms of the future of a police accountability measure in town, especially if that measure must be adopted by your body. So I hold that very true to my heart. It's a very important cornerstone of our community governance structure. And so again, I look forward to working with each of you and having very difficult discussions. I think it's great. Representative Gauthier, bringing in our youth collective. It's important to have our youth involved in these discussions. So this is your meeting, not a council meeting, so I'll leave it at that. But again, always open door, looking to collaborate. And thank you, Chairman Thomas, for putting this meeting together.
You're welcome. And thank you for dropping in, Councilor Bumgardner. And yeah, I do look forward to working with the Public Safety Committee on the Town Council. And I think we should explore ways we can actually maybe bring the two committees together sooner than later, as far as doing a combined meeting like this, where we can start building out ideas. I see Representative Richards.
Thank you. I just wanted to note, particularly to the youth that may be here now or watching later, that the committee that I had rules and procedures just put together a rule we're going to bring to the RTM, is it in another week or two, about having a number of student liaisons to the RTM. So if there are high school students who are interested in being a liaison to the RTM, we are looking to create something like that. So please follow our meetings and consider that as a way to get involved as well. Thank you.
Great point. Thank you. If no one has anything further, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
I'm sorry, who made the initial motion?
I think Bruce made it before I did.
Okay.
I definitely threw one in there.
Gauthier, or
All right.
Representative Gauthier made that motion.
Okay, Gauthier with the motion and Flax for the second.
Yes.
Yipper.
All right. Very well then. Thank you all for coming, and we will reconvene next week.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
Thank you.
So, Mama, in my cases, do I absolutely